Hi. In today's video, I'll be telling you about my teachers and the very first encounters with illusion. But I didn't see it at the moment that, I was standing in front of people acting out scenes in front of me back then. No, but it came to me as memories when I was working on my book. A lot of memories were coming to me most of the time at night. So that was cool. Uh, yeah, so I'll be telling you about references and checking my Akashic records, probably. The situations that I would interpret it as, checking my Akashic records, checking my future, and the situations that I would say some of them were, just a little bit acted out. So, if you're curious about further events from my book Piglet, then stay tuned and off we go. So, my very first teacher was Miss Kościmińska. I mean, apart from kindergarten, where we sang this song, the ships with bananas were coming, which is a very strong link to Africa for me. Okay. So, in primary school, my teacher was Miss Kościmińska. And she used to buy food from McDonald's to two boys, there was Mateusz and Rysiek only. And they would get that food and we could just look at them having fries from McDonald's. Or she would buy them biscuits. Candy bars like Lion and Kitty Kat and maybe there is nothing peculiar about it, but whenever she did that, she would be, looking at me quite so often. And during that time, I remember sitting in the bench. I could be at most in the third grade, and I had this thought that I would become a whore, which was an idea, taken from the home. My mother said that my friend would become a whore. And then I sitting in the classroom was, a little bit confused, like, thinking about it, what she said, and thinking that I would become a whore. And I remember, like, silence and the girls looking on each other, on me as if there was something more in the air than silence among us. And the teacher, Ms. Gościumińska, was looking too. So that was great, yeah. Because the thing I don't understand is that I just didn't know what the word meant, being that young. And, I think Ms. Kościumińska was just basically checking other references too when she took us to the cinema and we saw, for example, Tarzan or Harry Potter or In the Desert and the Wilderness, the book written by Henryk Sienkiewicz, and later there was a film created based on that book. That book speaks about the colonization in Africa, and that book is a story of Nell and Stash, and I wrote about Nell, the identity of Nell, and I wrote about pedophiles who are being shaped into girls, who are at least exposed into younger girls. So there is an article on that too, a very explicit one and a very strong one, I would say. And also, there was a long story about going to the oldest museum in Tarnów and then hearing the story about the sculptor who was all covered with hair. And then I was scared of hair all of a sudden. I had this image of this woman being entirely covered with hair. And then, the story started and it kept on going. So I cut hair, on my forearm and it grew bigger. So I started to develop my complexes. And then it went on and on and on until I started to grow hair even on my face. And the other thing I think I've observed during that time was the swimming pool, that I was drowning like 3 times in the swimming pool. 3 times in the swimming pool, 3 times in the row. And and I was actually lucky that I did it just immediately, just right after, just didn't, after one moment when I was drowning, and then all of a sudden that day we were going to jump on the very deep water. I was lucky that I didn't decide to, step aside and take a rest or something, but I was just going and do it, just jump right in. And this is what Richard Bandler talks about. If you have a fear, you can get rid of it very fast, and that's the best way to go about it. But that's going to be a different video, I think. And then the battery. Sorry. And then there was the horse, we used to go to the place where there were a lot of horses. We would have a bonfire over there, and then I remember that we were riding a horse even, and my horse started to run quickly, a little bit quicker than, in comparison to my friends. And whenever I approached the horse and I wanted to stroke it, then I would have a thought that, it would kick me or something. So, I just liked animals. I used to like animals. So I think, they do it to anyone. I know a boy who loved environment. He loved asking about trees, about, bushes and flowers. And soon enough, he developed an allergy to, external seeds and things that, develop in summer. So I believe that was also the purpose of, sending somebody energy and thoughts and an impression that the horse can, attack you. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but, the horse can, okay. And, my teachers, Mrs. Yura and Mrs. Babno were, they were obese women. And I remember thinking, that how come that your PE teachers like obese? Like, it doesn't just add up. It doesn't fit. People who are into sports, they are fit people. And that day when I had that thought, one of them just stood up and was bouncing the ball very energetically, and she was very convincing. And I was like, oh, but it doesn't matter. Like, she's really like, this youthful spirit, and she's really like having that energy. And so what? She's fat. Because that wasn't the problem, and that wasn't the, observation I had. It was just the connection of the profession and the problem of obesity. So I wouldn't like to, just judge someone just because they're, fat, right? And then, there was this lack of consistency. So somebody, as if it looked to me, that somebody responded to my thoughts in a given moment, but then that image and that impression wasn't like, sustained and carried on. It was just, in a reaction in a moment, and there was lack of consistency later on, and therefore I believe that, that was acted out in accordance with my observation reflection in a given moment. Yeah, and we went to competition. What I have to tell you is that I lacked physical education with those ladies. We went to competition, and here's what happened. I was never like. Maybe there was some potential to be good at basketball, but whenever it came to actually shoot the ball and go for it and to get the score, I didn't do it most of the time. So I'm not sure what I was doing, why I was taking part in the competition. But I was taking part in the competition. So we went to play with a different school. And I was just, this additional player sitting on the bench. And when my teacher told me to come in and play, I was like, no. And she was like, yes, you're going. And I was like, no, no, no. And she's like, you're going. So I was like, okay, so I'm going. So I went to play. And then there was one moment when I had the ball in my hands and everybody was standing and looking at me, and I was standing and looking at everybody else. And then I think that day we lost, and then my teacher was like, no, 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 no. You were the one with the ball in your hands. What was that? You just can't stand. And she was yelling at me. And then we had the ritual that the second class would take us, one girl would buy ice cream from McDonald's to all of us. So I always felt guilty about having that ice cream, because it felt like there was like 12 girls and one is paying. So with McDonald's, obviously I worked in McDonald's, and in McDonald's I was discovering witches. So coming back to to my very first teacher in primary school, I think she was buying those boys the food from McDonald's to check, possibly to check my future. And obviously we each and every year we would celebrate Halloween too with Miss Gościmiska. So we would have games with shoes. Which shoe would reach the door, then that person will get married as the first. I think this is how it went. And we would even play with apples. Somebody would eat an apple attached to the string, and I would be the one eating the apple. And even being that young, when I had this apple, I felt ashamed. I don't know why, but it was stupid because you had to, like eat this apple and you couldn't touch it, and I didn't like it. And we would also use the candles liquid to see, to lay the candles liquid to the water and see what was coming up. And she would just look to my left when I was skipping the pots. I don't know, what did she see? Okay. And then we had whom did we have? We had our art teacher. I remember drawing a church with him. I remember drawing a lamp with him, which a lamp probably symbolically stands for the light. But that doesn't actually says too much to us, because it can be just any subject really. And but there was one thing, that he used to teach my siblings. So all five of us, we had the same art teacher, and he said that he used to say, my siblings would joke about him, oh, that during classes with him, then he would just talk about the money, and the money was always on his mind. And you know what, when he taught me, he never joked about money, I think, except once, when I was sitting and thinking, this money thing, and my siblings would comment on that and so on. So then he started to sing a song about money. And what I also remember is that he was the teacher who would tell my sister, who painted the burning forest, the forest in flames. And she would come back home and say that the teacher was, excited, happy about her painting. Yeah. And my singing teacher, there was nothing really unusual about Mrs. Korsak. She looked really gypsy. And she was a very tall woman, but she would always keep an eye on me when singing. She was playing. I remember her like playing the piano and looking, to the back at me, and we would just. What I have to tell you, we would sing the songs that were kind of um, sad, like um, it's gone and it will never be back, like ale to już było i nie wróci więcej. Kupię serce. No bo znowu w życiu mi nie wyszło, znowu jestem sam. Hej, przyjaciele, przyjaciele, hej, choć chwilę jedną. So, the song that would say that about the fact that you didn't do it in life and you are yet again alone. And, or tam do kościołem już nie dojdę, szkoda zdzierać nóg. Or where I wanted to go, I will not get there. And there's no use even trying. That's very, sad. So, okay. And there was also, my maths teacher. She would tell us that we had dirty ears. And she wouldn't say who had dirty ears, but we should go and check our ears at home. So I wrote about ears with regard to madness. I wrote about ears when writing my bachelor thesis, and I wrote about hypnosis for a dirty horse. So I think the word dirty is really significant because it's going to be connected the psychological sphere, linguistic sphere, with also the physical, the actual dirt on your body. Yeah, and she also said the thing I didn't think about, I didn't notice on my own. She said that one of our friends, her name was Agnieszka, she said that she had very big eyes, green eyes, in a very smaller face, and therefore she had unusual and exceptional beauty. And she asked us if we have noticed that. So I didn't pay attention to that because I couldn't connect to that girl actually. I didn't make friends with her. I had different Agnieszka as my close friend. And I don't know what to tell you about this comment because on the one hand you can just you have the right to say so. Why not? To say that somebody is exceptionally beautiful, but on the other hand, if you have the classroom with a lot of girls in it, then one of us is singled out, and what about the rest of us? So I don't know, because on the one hand you can have the right to say that, okay, to tell somebody they are exceptionally beautiful. But obviously that's the beauty or the lack of beauty, and the appearance is the something that's comes back a lot in my book, and comes back in a lot of the times when speaking about how we more very often perceive our value, and how it is strongly linked with appearance, with regard to women, right? And then in middle school, I didn't realize all my life, and I never told anyone that, until I was finishing writing Piglet, and then I thought, oh dear, I had two Arabic friends in middle school, and I didn't know it. I remember, like, I didn't know it, like I didn't note it, you know. So just after coming back from Holland, and just after leaving, working in McDonald's, and after leaving the next year that I spent on writing the book, then I started to connect the dots. And I had Kamil and Piotrek, who were my classmates, but I didn't manage to get to know them. They were very, very neutral, maybe a little even distant from me. So I I remember having a conversation just with Camille when I actually told him, "Oh, you are of a different nationality, Camille." So I asked him if was it his mom or his dad who were, Arabic, or what nationality were they. But I forgot about it for years because in middle school, in high school, and during studies, I didn't have any other Arabic boys around me. So it was only in the middle school, and they were speaking fluent Polish. So with Piotrek, I didn't grasp it. I grasped it after the years, when writing my book. But Camille looked more like, like he was mixed with appearance, but he was fluent Polish. So, yeah. Mm. And then, let me just. Um, okay. And then, when it comes to middle school teachers, and not middle school, but high school teachers and teachers from my studies, I'll tell you more about them in the next video. And if you're curious about further events from my book Piglet, then drop me a line at lkinga788@gmail.com to get a free PDF of it. And if you want to check out my course, Amelia, if you want to learn more about mind controls, mind games, manipulation, if you want to learn how identities of gays, lesbians, transvestites, and pedophiles are created by language, experience, and how it is all linked, even with food, then click the link below and check it out. You will find all the info in the description of the film, on my website, on my Facebook and Instagram account. And you will, and if you like this video, I'm sorry, I'm just losing it. Okay, so like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.